I was 7 months fake pregnant when my husband's actual pregnant mistress knocked on our door. Before I tell you how a marketing director like me ended up wearing a 12-pound silicone belly to save her marriage, do me a quick favor. Hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. Trust me, you won't want to miss stories like this. And if you end up enjoying this one, I'll really helps get these stories to more people who need to hear them. Now, let me take you back to where it all started. 3 months earlier, I was standing in our kitchen watching my husband pour whiskey at 4 in the afternoon. David never drank before dinner. The bottle hit the granite countertop harder than necessary. "I can't do this anymore," he said. I felt my stomach drop. The light through our east-facing windows suddenly seemed too bright, exposing everything I'd been trying not to see. His late nights, the new cologne, cedar and bergamot, something expensive I hadn't bought him. The way he'd started holding his phone face down on our coffee table. "Can't do what?" My voice came out smaller than I intended. He turned to face me, and I saw something in his expression I'd never seen before. Not anger, resignation. "I want a family, Rebecca. If that's not what you want, we need to face it." There it was. The ultimatum I'd felt coming for months, maybe years. We'd been married 6 years. High school sweethearts who'd reconnected at 27 and thought we'd figured life out. Dual income, no kids, a renovated brownstone in Lincoln Park, weekend brunches and weeknight wine bars. The life I thought we both wanted. "We've talked about this," I said. "My career is finally. Your career will always be there. Our window won't be." The hardwood floors creaked under my feet as I stepped closer. "Are you saying what I think you're saying?" "I'm saying I want a family." He drained the whiskey. "If you don't, maybe we want different lives." The silence that followed felt like drowning. "Give me some time," I whispered. "Please." "How much time do we have left?" That night, I lay awake listening to David breathe beside me. His back was turned, the way it had been every night for the past 3 months. I stared at the ceiling and thought about Patricia, his mother, and her passive-aggressive comments at every family dinner. About Claire, my sister, who'd warned me last year that David seemed different. About Mara, my best friend, who'd said just last week, "He's pulling away." You can feel it, right? I could feel it. I'd been feeling it for months. At 2 in the morning, I did something insane. I opened my laptop, the blue light harsh in our dark bedroom, and typed, "Realistic pregnancy prosthetic." The websites that loaded looked professional. Medical-grade silicone. Stage 1, Stage 2, Stage 3 progression. 5-star reviews from theater companies and, I noticed with a sick feeling, other women like me. "Looks so real," one review said. "Fooled everyone," said another. I wondered what these other women were using them for. Theater props? Sympathy? Or were there more of us out there? Women desperate enough to fake the one thing that might keep a man who was already halfway out the door? My cursor hovered over a product called the Belly Bump First Trimester Model. 12 pounds. Velcro straps. Warm to the touch. 2-day shipping. I clicked Add to Cart. What I didn't know, what I couldn't have known, was that while I was shopping for fake bellies, David was in bed next to me texting someone. "She's never gonna give me what I want." The package arrived on a Thursday. I signed for it while David was at work, carried it upstairs to our bedroom, and locked the door even though I was alone. The box felt heavier than 12 pounds. It felt like the weight of every lie I was about to tell. Inside, the prosthetic looked disturbingly real. Flesh-toned silicone with visible veining. Instructions on how to strap it on, how to adjust it for comfort. As if comfort was possible. As if anything about this could be comfortable. I stood in front of our bathroom mirror and strapped it on. The Velcro closure bit into my skin. The weight pulled at my lower back in a way I hadn't anticipated. I smoothed my oversized sweater over it and turned sideways. From this angle, I looked 14 weeks pregnant. Maybe 16. I looked like a liar. But when I walked downstairs and David saw me standing in the kitchen doorway, his eyes traveled from my face to my stomach and back again, and I saw something I'd thought was gone forever. Possibility. 2 weeks later, I told him, So, I have news, I said. We were sitting on our couch. He was scrolling through his phone, only half present, the way he'd been for months. Yeah? My heart pounded so hard I was sure he could hear it. I'm pregnant. His phone fell. Actually fell from his hands onto the cushion between us. What? He looked up, his eyes wide. Are you serious? I nodded, trying not to cry from the guilt already crushing my chest. 10 weeks. Why didn't you tell me sooner? He grabbed my shoulders, his grip tight with excitement. I wanted to be sure. After everything we said, He pulled me close. His cologne filled my nose. His arms wrapped around me and the fake belly pressed between us, and I thought, this is the moment. This is where I take it back. This is where I tell the truth. I'm sorry, he whispered into my hair. I'm so sorry I pushed you. This is everything, Rebecca. This is everything. I said nothing. I just held him and felt the weight of what I'd done settle into my bones. The lie spread like wildew fire. David called his parents. I posted on social media a photo of baby shoes I'd bought as props. My mother cried on the phone. Mara showed up at my door with champagne she knew I couldn't drink, and eyes that said we need to talk. You're not actually pregnant, she said the moment we were alone. I am. Rebecca, I took a test. It was positive. Show me. I couldn't, of course, because I'd never taken one. Instead, I cried, and Mara held me, and I knew she knew, but she loved me enough not to say it out loud. At work, my boss moved me off the traveling accounts. Co-workers brought me ginger tea. Everyone was so happy for me, and every congratulation was another brick in the wall I was building. Week 12, I ordered the second trimester prosthetic. Week 16, I scheduled a fake anatomy scan and sent David a made-up ultrasound photo I'd found online. Week 20, Patricia threw me a surprise baby shower in her formal living room with crown molding and 43 women I barely knew. I remember standing in that shower, champagne flutes clinking around me, the smell of too many perfumes making my fake morning sickness feel almost real. Patricia gave a toast. To the daughter-in-law who's giving me what I've waited 6 years for, she said, her voice thick with emotion. To baby Chen, arriving this fall. She handed me a gift. A handmade quilt with Baby Chen 2024 embroidered in the corner. Every stitch represented hours of her time, her love, her expectations. I held it in my lap and felt its weight pressing against the fake belly and thought, I am a monster. But David was happy again. That's what mattered, right? He came home on time. He made dinner. He put his hand on my stomach at night, on the prosthetic I wore even to bed, and talked about names, about the nursery we'd build, about the life we'd have. He stopped working late on Wednesdays. Actually, no, that's not true. He kept working late on Wednesdays, 6:30 to 8:45, like clockwork. He'd come home smelling like coffee and claim he'd been at client dinners at Shaw's Crab House, but there were never any receipts over $80. Mostly, I saw $18 charges to a place called the Grindhouse on Division Street. I told myself it was nothing. I was already lying about being pregnant. I couldn't also be paranoid about an affair. That would be insane. But at week 24, I did something else insane. I called a private investigator Mara had used during her divorce. I just need to know, I told him. One Wednesday, that's all. He sent me photos 3 days later. I opened the envelope sitting in my car outside our building, unable to wait until I got upstairs. The first photo showed David walking into the Grindhouse. The second showed him sitting across from a young woman with strawberry blonde hair. The third showed his hand on her stomach, her very pregnant stomach. The timestamp read, 6:33 p.m. 3 weeks ago. Back when I was 21 weeks pregnant. Back when David had come home and kissed my forehead and asked if the baby was kicking yet. I sat in that car for 2 hours. The leather steering wheel left marks on my forehead where I pressed against it. The photographs scattered across my lap like evidence at a crime scene. While I'd been buying fake bellies on Amazon Prime, he'd been creating a real baby with someone else. The irony would have been funny if it wasn't destroying me. Quick pause. If you're hooked on this story, hit that like button. It takes half a second and helps more than you know. Okay, back to the chaos. I confronted him that night, sort of. "How's Ashley at work?" I asked over dinner. He froze, fork halfway to his mouth. "How do you know about Ashley?" My pulse spiked. "You mention AJ all the time. Your assistant, right?" Relief flooded his face. "Oh, yeah. She's great. Really organized." I watched him lie to me while I sat across from him in a fake pregnancy belly, and I thought, we deserve each other. But I didn't have the courage to push further, because what would I say? "I know you're having an affair, and by the way, I'm not actually pregnant." So I waited. I wore progressively larger prosthetics. I practiced my waddle. I researched miscarriage statistics and planned to lose the baby at week 16. But then week 16 became week 20, became week 24, became week 28. And week 28 is when Ashley knocked on our door. It was a Saturday morning, 84 degrees, humid, the kind of Chicago summer day where the heat rises off the pavement in waves. I was wearing my third trimester prosthetic, the full 12 pounds, and a loose sundress. David was in the shower. I was making coffee when the doorbell rang. Through the window, I saw a young woman standing on our steps. Early 20s, strawberry blonde hair in a messy bun, maternity overalls from Target. She held a jewel Osco bag, and I could see prenatal vitamins visible through the plastic. My blood turned to ice. I opened the door anyway. Maybe I wanted it to happen. Maybe I was tired of drowning. "Can I help you?" My voice sounded strange in my own ears. She looked up, and I saw her eyes were red from crying. "Are you Rebecca?" "Who's asking?" "I'm Ashley." Her hand moved protectively to her stomach, her real, actual stomach with a real, actual baby inside. "I work with David. Well, I mean..." She took a shaky breath. "I'm pregnant with his baby." Time did this weird thing. It didn't speed up or slow down. It fractured. I was simultaneously standing there and watching from somewhere above, thinking, this is it. This is where everything ends. "You're what?" He said, her voice cracked. "God, I'm so stupid. He said you couldn't have kids. That you'd been trying for 3 years. My hand moved instinctively to my fake belly. Her eyes followed the movement. I watched understanding dawn on her face. Her mouth opened. Her eyes went wide. "Oh no," she whispered. "Oh no, no, no." Behind me, I heard the shower shut off. David's voice called out, "Who's at the door?" Ashley's face drained of color. What is she doing pregnant? David appeared in the hallway, towel around his waist, hair dripping. He saw Ashley. He saw me. He saw both of our hands on our respective stomachs. One real, one fake, both ending his life as he knew it. "Ashley," his voice came out strangled. "What are you doing here?" "What is she doing pregnant?" Ashley's voice rose. You said she couldn't have kids." David looked at me, really looked at me, at my belly, at my face. And I saw the question forming. Is it possible? Could she actually be pregnant? I could have kept lying. Could have let him think the timing was just a horrible coincidence. Could have used Ashley's appearance to deflect from my own deception. Instead, I reached down and ripped open the Velcro closure. The sound was loud in the morning quiet, like something tearing, like the truth. The prosthetic fell away. I caught it with both hands and stood there holding 12 pounds of medical-grade silicone while my husband and his pregnant mistress stared at me. "It's fake," I said. My voice sounded remarkably calm. "I've been wearing it for 7 months." Ashley's legs gave out. She sat down hard on our front steps. David's face went through about 15 emotions in 3 seconds. Confusion, understanding, betrayal, rage, horror. "You're not pregnant?" Each word came out separated, like he was testing them. "You lied to me?" I almost laughed. Almost. I lied? I lied? You got your 24-year-old assistant pregnant. 24, Ashley corrected quietly from the steps. Oh, well, that makes it so much better. People were starting to look. Mrs. Chen from next door. The jogger who always ran past at 9. Our mailman, frozen mid-delivery. Inside, David hissed. Now. We moved into the living room, all three of us. This bizarre triangle of lies and consequences. I dropped the prosthetic on our expensive coffee table, where it landed with a dull thud. Ashley sat on the edge of our couch, one hand on her stomach. David stood in the middle of the room in his towel, dripping onto our hardwood floors. Start talking, he said, looking at me. Me? I felt something crack inside my chest. Maybe it was a laugh. Maybe it was something breaking. You want me to explain. You faked a pregnancy for 7 months. Because you said you'd leave if I didn't get pregnant. Ashley made a small sound. He said you'd been trying for 3 years, that you had fertility problems, that the doctors said nothing, I interrupted. Because I never went to any doctors, because I was never trying, because I didn't want children until he threatened to leave if I didn't produce one. David's jaw clenched. That's not fair. I never threatened. If you won't even try, maybe we want different things, I quoted. March 15th. You poured whiskey at 4 p.m. and told me our marriage was over unless I gave you a family. Silence. Ashley looked between us. He told me you guys had been separated for 6 months, that you were still living together, but it was over. When did he tell you that? I asked. February. I felt the blood drain from my face. February, a month before his ultimatum to me. He'd already been with Ashley when he'd demanded I get pregnant. He'd been building an escape plan while pretending our marriage could still be saved. You were already cheating, I said slowly, when you told me you wanted kids. David said nothing. You were already with her when you pushed me to get pregnant. You were managing 2 separate lives, 2 separate realities. I looked at Ashley. What did he tell you when I announced I was pregnant? She wiped her eyes. He said you'd lied, that you'd faked a pregnancy test to trap him, that he was staying with you until he could figure out how to leave without destroying you. The layers of deception were almost beautiful in their complexity. He'd told her I was faking to explain why he stayed. He'd told me nothing while actually making a baby with someone else. How far along are you? I asked Ashley. 34 weeks. I did the math. 8.5 months. She'd gotten pregnant right around the time David had given me his ultimatum. Maybe even before. My phone rang. Patricia's name flashed on the screen. Don't answer that, David said. I answered. Rebecca, dear, the strangest thing just happened. Patricia's voice was bright, confused. A young woman named Ashley called me asking about the baby shower details. She said she was a friend of David's from work and wanted to bring a gift. But we already had the shower 3 weeks ago, and I'm just confused about... She stopped. I heard the moment understanding hit. Who is Ashley? I put the phone on speaker. Why don't you ask your son? David Marcus Chen, what is going on? The use of his full name, the mother voice. David actually flinched. Mom, this isn't... Is there another woman? Silence. David? Yes, he whispered. Is she pregnant? Ashley spoke up from the couch. Yes, ma'am. I'm 34 weeks along. I heard Patricia's sharp intake of breath. Then, and Rebecca? What's going on with Rebecca's pregnancy? David looked at me. I looked at the prosthetic on the coffee table. We looked at each other. It's fake, I said. I've been wearing a fake belly. I was going to pretend to miscarry. The silence on the phone stretched so long, I thought Patricia had hung up. Then, all 3 of you, come to the house, now. The line went dead. Ever been so shocked you forget to breathe? That's where we all were. And if you're feeling that too right now, smash that like button. I'm about to tell you what happened next. And trust me, it gets even crazier. The drive to Evanston took 30 minutes in Saturday traffic. David drove. I sat in the passenger seat. Ashley followed in her 2011 Honda Civic with the infant car seat already installed in the back. Nobody spoke. Patricia and Robert's house looked the same as always. Perfect lawn, perfect flower beds. The house where David had grown up, where we'd had countless family dinners, where just 3 weeks ago 43 women had celebrated a baby that didn't exist. Patricia opened the door before we knocked. Her face was stone. "Formal living room," she said. "Now." We filed in like children being sent to the principal's office. Patricia sat in her usual chair. Robert stood by the window, arms crossed. David sat on the love seat. I took the armchair. Ashley perched on the ottoman, looking like she wanted to disappear. "Someone needs to tell the truth," Patricia said. "All of it." David opened his mouth. Patricia held up her hand. "Rebecca first." I took a breath. The words felt like shards of glass coming up. 8 months ago, David told me he wanted children. I wasn't ready. He said if I couldn't give him a family, maybe we wanted different lives. I panicked. I thought if I could just buy time, if I could just make him happy for a little while, maybe things would get better. "So you faked a pregnancy," Robert said. His voice wasn't angry, just tired. "I bought a prosthetic belly online. I wore it every day for 7 months. I was planning to fake a miscarriage at 16 weeks, but David was so happy, and I couldn't." My voice broke. I couldn't bear to break his heart. Patricia turned to David. "Your turn." "I met Ashley 8 months ago, at a coffee shop on Division. We started talking. It wasn't supposed to be anything." "How close?" Patricia's voice was ice. "She's pregnant. It's mine." Ashley spoke up, her voice small. "He told me he was separated but still living with his wife, that they'd been trying for kids for 3 years and it hadn't worked out. That you had fertility problems." Patricia looked at me. "And your pregnancy?" "Fake. I was going to stage a miscarriage. I had it all planned." "Why?" "Because your son told me he'd leave me if I didn't get pregnant." My voice came out harder than I intended. "So I became what he wanted, or pretended to." Patricia turned to David. "You gave her an ultimatum?" I didn't mean it like that." "How did you mean it?" David had no answer. Ashley's voice shook. "When I told him I was pregnant, he said we'd be a family, that he was just waiting for the right time to leave. Then Rebecca announced she was pregnant, and he stopped answering my calls for 3 days. The room went very still." "You plan to leave both of them?" Robert's voice cut through the silence. David's face crumbled. "I didn't know what to do. Ashley was pregnant for real, but then Rebecca was pregnant, and I thought maybe it was a sign. Maybe we were supposed to..." "Supposed to what?" I stood up. "Keep both of us dangling? Build 2 separate families? Which one were you going to pick, David?" "I don't know." His voice echoed in the perfect living room. "I don't know," he said again, quieter. "I thought I could figure it out. I thought maybe you'd actually miscarry, Rebecca, and then I could what? Comfort me while your actual baby was being born?" My hands were shaking. "You wanted me to lose the baby. You were hoping I'd miscarry so your problem would solve itself." The look on his face told me I was right. Ashley stood up. "I'm leaving. I don't want this. I don't want him." She looked at me. "I'm sorry. I really thought he said you couldn't have kids. He said you'd tried everything." "He lied to both of us," I said quietly, "in different ways. But both lies were about the same thing, what we could give him." She left. The Honda's engine started outside. David moved to follow her. "Sit down," Patricia said. He sat. "Let me see if I understand this correctly." Patricia's voice could have cut diamonds. "You had an affair. You got your mistress pregnant. You told her your wife was infertile. You told your wife you'd leave if she didn't get pregnant. Your wife, in a moment of desperation, faked a pregnancy. You stayed with your wife out of guilt while continuing to support your mistress financially. And you were hoping your wife's fake pregnancy would end in a fake miscarriage so you could pursue your real baby with your mistress without anyone being the wiser." When she laid it out like that, it sounded even worse. "Yes," David whispered. "And you." Patricia turned to me. You faked a pregnancy for 7 months. Yes. Why didn't you just leave? Because I loved him. Because I thought I could fix it. Because I was scared. The tears finally came. Because you kept asking about grandchildren, and every family dinner felt like a referendum on my fertility, and I just wanted everyone to be happy. Patricia's face softened slightly. What you did was wrong. I know. But what he did was worse. David's head snapped up. She lied about being pregnant, Patricia continued. You lied about everything. Your relationship status, your fidelity, your intentions. You made 2 women believe they were building futures with you while you built nothing but deception. Robert finally spoke. You'll support that child financially. Of course, David said. And you'll do it without complaint or resentment. That baby didn't ask for any of this. I know. Patricia stood. I need you both to leave. I need to think about what this means. For this family. For everyone. We left. David went to a hotel. I went home to our condo and took off the fake belly for the last time. The Velcro had left red marks on my skin that would fade in a few days. The emotional marks would take longer. I called Mara. It's over, I said. Everything came out. Good, she said simply. Do you need me to come over? Tomorrow. Tonight I just need to sit with it. I sat on our couch. The couch where I'd told David I was pregnant, where we'd planned a nursery, where we'd built a future on lies. And I cried. Not for the marriage. That had been dead for longer than I'd admitted. I cried for the version of me who'd thought love meant becoming someone else's fantasy. 3 months later, I signed a lease on a 1-bedroom apartment in Logan Square. The divorce proceedings were surprisingly straightforward once all the cards were on the table. David's lawyer tried to argue emotional distress from my deception. My lawyer presented evidence of his affair, the financial support he'd been giving Ashley during our marriage, the Venmo payments for rent I'd discovered, $1,200 a month for 4 months. The judge looked at both of us with something between pity and contempt. I think we've all been deceived here, she said. Let's focus on equitable division and move on. I got the condo, most of the savings. David got his parents' disappointment and child support payments. Ashley had her baby in October, a girl named Sophie. I know because Patricia told me. We still talk, which surprises everyone, including me. What you did was wrong, Patricia said over coffee 2 months after everything exploded. But I pushed too hard about grandchildren. I made you feel like your worth was tied to your fertility. I'm sorry. I'm sorry too, I said. For lying. For the baby shower. For that beautiful quilt. I'm saving it, she said quietly. For Sophie. She's my granddaughter too. Even if the circumstances are complicated. The strangest development came 6 months after the divorce was finalized. Ashley texted me. Just coffee? We met at a place in Wicker Park, nowhere near the grindhouse. Sophie was 4 months old, strapped to Ashley's chest in a carrier. She had David's nose and Ashley's strawberry blonde hair. I know this is weird, Ashley said, stirring her latte. Everything about this is weird, I agreed. But you're the only person who understands what it felt like to try to become what he wanted. I looked at her, really looked at her. She was exhausted, dark circles under her eyes, but there was something else too. Peace, maybe, or acceptance. We both tried to become what David wanted, I said. You succeeded biologically. I succeeded theatrically. Neither of us succeeded in the way that mattered. Making him actually love us for who we were, she finished. Yeah. Sophie made a small sound. I looked down at her tiny, perfect face. Do you want to hold her? Ashley asked. I did. I held that baby girl, the baby that had exposed all our lies, and I felt something unexpected. Not regret, not resentment, just a strange tenderness for this innocent child born into chaos. She's beautiful, I whispered. She is. Ashley took her back. David sees her every other weekend. He's engaged to someone new. She's already pregnant. I laughed. Ashley laughed. Of course she is. Her name is Jennifer. She's 35 and very ready for children. Third time's the charm. We became friends after that, not close friends. But the kind of friends who text each other when dating app matches ask too soon about kids, who understand what it means to lose yourself in someone else's expectations. A year after everything fell apart, I started dating again. I met someone who'd never asked me about children, who didn't have a timeline or a plan, who liked me exactly as I was. On our third date, he said, "Do you want kids?" I thought about the prosthetic belly gathering dust in my closet. About 7 months of lies? About David's face when he thought his dreams were coming true. I don't know, I said honestly. Maybe someday. Maybe not. But I know I'll never do anything that makes me lose myself again. He smiled. Fair enough. 2 years after that Saturday morning when Ashley knocked on our door, I'm sitting in my Logan Square apartment, smaller than the Lincoln Park condo, but entirely mine, and I'm thinking about the journey. David's married to Jennifer. They have a 6-month-old son. Patricia sends me photos occasionally. Ashley's dating someone new who's good with Sophie. They seem happy. I look at the old photos sometimes. The fake pregnancy announcement, the baby shower pictures, that quilt with Baby Chen 2024 embroidered in the corner. I deleted most of them, but I kept one. David's face when I told him I was pregnant. Pure, unguarded joy. That joy wasn't for me. It was for the idea of what I could give him. I pretended to be pregnant to save my marriage. But you can't save something that's already drowning by pretending you can breathe underwater. Eventually, someone comes to the door with the truth, and when they do, you have 2 choices. Keep lying, or finally come up for air. I chose air. The worst lies aren't the ones we tell other people. They're the ones we tell ourselves. That love means transformation. That if we just become what someone else wants, they'll finally see us. That we can fake our way into someone loving the real us. But here's what I learned, sitting in that doorway with my fake belly and his real pregnant mistress. You can't. You can't fake your way into authentic love. You can't perform your way into genuine connection. And you can't build a real future on a foundation of lies, no matter how well-intentioned those lies might be. Sometimes the person you need to save from a bad relationship is yourself. So, what do you think? Have you ever lied to save a relationship? Not a small lie, but a life-altering one? What happened when the truth came out? Drop a comment and let me know. I actually read every single one. If this story moved you, hit that like button. If you want more real stories about ordinary people in extraordinary situations, subscribe and turn on notifications. And if you know someone who needs to hear this, share it with them. Coming up next, I've got a story about a woman who discovered her husband had a second family, and they'd been living 3 blocks away for 5 years. You won't want to miss it. Thanks for listening. I'll see you in the next one.